Greetings of the day to everybody. Today we are going to do the fourth chapter of the supplementary reader of class 10 Footprints Without Feet. The name of the chapter is A Question of Trust, written by Victor Canning. Now, this is the story about a man named Horace Danby who is 50 years old, and everyone around him thinks he is a good and an honest man. He used to build locks and used to earn enough profit so that he could hire two servants to help him. He was sent to jail once about for 15 years ago because he used to commit robberies every year. Just for his robberies crime, he was sent to jail also. This year when he goes to a house for a robbery, he meets a woman there who pretends to be the owner of the house. Later, when he leaves from there, he is arrested after 2-3 days. And then the truth about that lady is revealed. Now, what was that truth and why he was arrested? All these things we'll find out when we read the chapter. It is said that you must set a thief to catch a thief. But it is also said that there is honor among thieves. Which saying does this story illustrate? Means if you have to catch a thief, you have to hire a thief. Or the other saying is that there is some honor, some truthfulness among the thieves. Now let's see which of these saying is appropriate for this story. Everyone thought that Horace Danby was a good, honest citizen. He was about 50 years old and unmarried, and he lived with a housekeeper who worried over his health. In fact, he was usually very well and happy, except for attacks of hay fever in summer. He had made locks and was successful enough at his business to have two helpers, two servants. Yes, Horace Danby was good and respectable, but not completely honest. 15 years ago, Horace had served his first and only sentence in a prison. Sentence means he was sent to jail, prison library. He loved rare, expensive books, so he robbed a safe every year. Each year he planned carefully just what he would do, stole enough to last for 12 months, and secretly bought the books he loved through an agent. Now, walking in the bright July sunshine, he felt sure that his year's robbery was going to be as successful as all the others. For 2 weeks, he had been studying the house at Shotover Grange, looking at its rooms, its electric wiring, its paths, and its garden. This afternoon, the two servants who remained in the Grange while the family was in London had gone to the movies. Horace saw them go and he felt happy in spite of a little tickle of hay fever in his nose. He came out from behind the garden wall, his tools carefully packed in a bag on his back. Now see, Horace Danby was a 50 years old man. He was unmarried and lived with his housekeeper. The housekeeper used to worry about his health, although he was fit and fine. But many times he used to have hay fever attacks in summer. He used to make locks and used to earn a profit that was enough for him to hire two servants for his work. Everybody used to think that he was a good and honest citizen, but nobody knew that he had gone to jail also 15 years ago. He got his love for rare and expensive books from there. Every year he used to steal money that would last him for a year, and with the rest of the money he used to buy books through a secret agent. He was very fond of reading. This year, during the summers of July, he was sure that he would steal as easily without getting caught as he used to do every other summer. He thought that this year also he can steal. He studied the house for over 2 weeks. Study means he just went through all the details of the house, even the minor details he studied, as where the electric wiring was, paths and garden area. Then one specific day, when the servants who were supposed to stay back in the house went out for a movie, and he got the opportunity, he saw them leaving and was happy instead of being worried about the tickle in his nose due to hay fever. That is kind of allergy. He then left with a bag that had his tools. There were about 15,000 pounds worth of jewels in the grand safe. If he sold them one by one, he expected to get at least 5,000, enough to make him happy for another year. There were three very interesting books coming up for sale in the autumn. Now he would get the money he wanted to buy them. He had seen the housekeeper hang the key to the kitchen door on the hook outside. He put on the pair of gloves, took the key, and opened the door. He was always careful not to leave any fingerprints. Now, when he got to know that very interesting books were coming up in the autumn, so he had planned this robbery. He had seen that the housekeeper was hanging the key on the kitchen door on the hook outside. He put on his pair of gloves because he didn't want to leave any fingerprints. A small dog was lying in the kitchen. It stirred, made a noise, and moved its tail in a friendly way. Now the gestures of the dog was as if it was familiar with him. "All right, Sherry," Horace said as he passed. All you had to do to keep dogs quiet was to call them by their right names and show them love. Now, when he called the dog by its name, the name of the dog was Sherry. So he knew that psychology, that if you have to be friends with the animals, you need to call them with their right names. And as he was collecting, he's been collecting all the information about the house, so he knew the name of the dog also. The safe was in the drawing room behind a rather poor painting. Horace wondered for a moment whether he should collect pictures instead of books, but they took up too much room. In a small house, books were better. So he was a bit confused that what he should buy, a picture for his room or books. So then he decided that books consume less place, so it's better to have books. There was a great bowl of flowers on the table, and Horace felt his nose tickle. Now see, as he was a patient of hay allergy, now just because of those flowers, he felt some tickling in his nose. He gave a little sneeze and then put down his bag. He sneezed and kept his bag down. He carefully arranged his tools. He had 4 hours before the servants returned. He knew that the servants had gone to watch a movie and they would not return for the next 4 hours. So he had ample time to commit his robbery. The safe was not going to be hard to open. After all, he had lived with locks and safes all his life. He was quite familiar with the locks and safes. The burglar alarm was poorly built. The alarm which is put for the robbers was also not of good quality. He went into the hall to cut its wire, and he went into the wall. He just disassembled him. He came back and sneezed loudly as the smell of the flowers came to him again. Now again, when that tickling was there, he again sneezed very loudly. How foolish people are when they own valuable things, Horace thought. A magazine article had described this house, giving a plan of all the rooms and a picture of this room. The writer had even mentioned that the painting had a safe. Now Horace was thinking that people are generally foolish when they are so well off. Why do they show off everything? Because he had got the plan of that house in a magazine, where even the minute detail that the poor painting had hid a safe. There was a safe behind that was also mentioned. But Horace found that the flowers were hindering him in his work. He buried his face in his handkerchief. Now he was getting distracted because of the hay allergy, and so he hid his face. He covered his face with the handkerchief. Then he heard a voice say from the doorway, "What is it? A cold or hay fever?" Then suddenly he heard a voice asking him, was it a cold or hay fever? Before he could think, Horace said, "Hay fever," and found himself sneezing again. And impromptu he replied that it was hay fever. The voice went on, "You can cure it with a special treatment, you know, if you find out just what plant gives you the disease. I think you'd better see a doctor if you're serious about your work. I heard you from the top of the house just now." Now the voice said, see, if you find out that what plant you are allergic to, you can get the treatment. And I just heard you from the top of the house and I have come down. It was a quite kindly voice, but one with firmness in it. A firm voice, a strict one. A woman was standing in the doorway and Sherry was rubbing against her. She was young, quite pretty, and was dressed in red. She walked to the fireplace and straightened the ornaments there. Now, even the dog was familiar with the lady. She came in, she was very nicely dressed up in red. She went to the fireplace as she was quite familiar with the place and just straightened her jewelry. Down, Sherry, she said. Anyone would think I'd been away for a month. She smiled at Horace and went on. However, I came back just in time, though I didn't expect to meet a burglar. Now, she said, people might be thinking that I was away from the house for a month, but I came right at the time, and I met you, the robber. Horace had some hope because she seemed to be amused at meeting him. He might avoid trouble if he treated her the right way. He replied, I didn't expect to meet one of the family. Now Horace got to know that she was the owner of the house, and he knew that if he treated her well, maybe her troubles could fade. And he said that I didn't expect to meet any of the family member here. She nodded. I see what an inconvenience it is for you to meet me. What are you going to do? Then she asked, I know you are very uncomfortable, and what are you about to do? Horace said, my first thought was to run. Of course, you could do that, but I would telephone the police and tell them all about. They'd get you once. He said, first thought that came to my mind was that I am going to run. Now, this is Horace, and this is that woman, and here it is Sherry. Now, she said, of course you can run, but I'm going to call the police and they will catch you within no time. Horace said, I would of course cut the telephone wires first, and then he hesitated, a smile on his face. I would make sure that you could do nothing for some time. A few hours would be enough. He said, of course, before running, I am going to cut the telephone wires. And then with a hesitant smile, with a cunning smile, he said, and I'll also make sure I'm going to tie you in such a way that for some time, and maybe few hours, you won't be able to do anything. She looked at him seriously. You'd hurt me. You're going to hurt me. Horace paused and then said, I think I was trying to frighten you when I said that. You didn't frighten me. Horace suggested it would be nice if you would forget you ever saw me. Let me go. The voice was suddenly sharp. Why should I? You were going to rob me. If I let you go, you'll only rob someone else. Society must be protected from men like you. Now Horace said that I was just trying to scare you. And she said you were unsuccessful in frightening me. He said, then it's better if you let me go. Then the woman said very sharply, why should I let you go? You are a robber. And our society should be protected from the people like you. Otherwise you are going to go out and rob somebody else. Horace smiled. I am not a man who threatens society. I steal only from those who have a lot of money. I steal for a very good reason, and I hate the thought of prison. He said, see, I am not a threat to the society. I am not here to trouble anybody. I steal money only from the people who have a lot of money. And there is for a good cause only I do that. But I hate the thought of going to the prison. She laughed and he begged, thinking that he had persuaded her. Look, I have no right to ask you for anything, but I am desperate. Let me go, and I promise never to do this kind of thing again. I really mean it. Now he said, okay, see, you let me go. I promise you I'm not going to do this robbery or theft anymore. She was silent, watching him closely. Then she said, you're really afraid of going to the prison? Aren't you? She came over to him, shaking her head. I have always liked the wrong kind of people. Now she said, see, I don't hate you. I like generally wrong kind of people. She picked up a silver box from the table. and took a cigarette from it. Horace, eager to please her and seeing that she might help him, took off his gloves and gave her his cigarette lighter. Now he tried to be a bit courteous towards her. You let me go. He held the lighter towards her and asked her, Madam, can you please let me go? Yes, but only if you'll do something for me. Now she said, okay, if you will help me, I'll let you go. Anything you say. Before we left for London, I promised my husband to take my jewels to our bank, but I left them here in the safe. I want to wear them to a party tonight, so I came down to get them. But now she said, okay, now you have to help me. See, before going to London, I have promised my husband that I will keep my all the jewelry in the bank, but I have left him here. I wanted to wear it. And she said, for that jewelry only I have come down. Horace smiled. You've forgotten the number to open the safe, haven't you? Now Horace tried to be quite smart. He said, I understand that you have forgotten the number of the safe, the secret number. Yes, replied the young lady. Just leave it to me and you'll have them within an hour. But I'll have to break your safe. Don't worry about that. My husband won't be here for a month and I'll have the safe mended by that time. Now he said, okay, but I cannot help you with the number, but I'll break the safe. She said, okay, you break it, no issues. My husband will come after a month and by that time I'm going to get it repaired. And within an hour, Horace had opened the safe, given her the jewels and gone happily away. For 2 days he kept his promise to the kind young lady. And within an hour he opened the safe and he gave her all the jewels and went away from the very happily. On the morning of the third day, however, he thought of the books he wanted and he knew he would have to look for another safe. And now he didn't get anything from that opening from that safe, so he decided that he need to do something. And he knew he would have to look for another safe to rob it and get the money to buy his 3 books. But he never got the chance to begin his plan. By noon, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at the Shotover Grange, and by the afternoon he was arrested by the police for opening that safe and robbing that jewelry. His fingerprints, for he had opened the safe without gloves, were all over the room, and no one believed him when he said that the wife of the owner of the house had asked him to open the safe for her. The wife herself, a grey-haired, sharp-tongued woman of 60, said that the story was nonsense. And when he explained the police that that the owner of the house only told him to open the safe, nobody believed him, because when the real owner came, she was a woman of 60. Horace is now the assistant librarian in the prison. He often thinks of the charming, clever young lady who was in the same profession as he was. Means that that woman was also a robber who had tricked him, who played a game with him and made him break the safe and took away all the jewelry, and whole blame just came upon Horace. He gets very angry when anyone talks about honor among thieves. And thus, it was really very sad to say that when people say there is honor among thieves also, at least they are loyal to each other. He feels that this is a real nonsense and he was tricked by the woman who was herself a robber. I hope now you have understood this chapter. Meet you with the next topic soon.